A cold wind swept through the city, as the Christmas lights flickered and danced in the evening. The streets were busy, with families preparing for their holiday trips. Among them was Ayla, a young girl who had been dreaming of her upcoming adventure to the countryside. She had been planning it for months, but something felt off. It was December, a time of magic and wonder, yet Ayla felt a strange sense of unease. Ayla's best friend, Zoey, had already packed her bags and was excited about their trip together. But every time Ayla thought about leaving the city, her heart raced. She had heard a lot of strange stories from older people about bad things happening to people who traveled without praying first. She had never really paid much attention to them, but now, she couldn't ignore the feeling inside her. One chilly morning, Ayla's grandmother, Nana, noticed her troubled look. Nana had always been a wise woman, full of ancient stories and advice. "Ayla, my dear, do you remember what I told you about traveling?" Nana asked gently, taking Ayla's hand in hers. Ayla nodded but stayed silent. Nana smiled softly. "Before you leave, always say a prayer. Ask for protection, guidance, and strength. It's not just a tradition, it's a way to ensure that nothing bad happens along your journey." Ayla's mind raced with questions. Was Nana's advice really important? Was it too late to pray now? Would something bad happen to her and Zoey if they didn't pray? The thought lingered in her mind all day. As night fell, Ayla lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Something told her that praying before traveling wasn't just a suggestion. It was something vital. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the curtains, Ayla woke up early. She quietly tiptoed to the kitchen, where Zoey was already munching on breakfast. "Zoey," Ayla said hesitantly, "do you think we should pray before we leave?" Zoey looked at her with a puzzled expression. "What do you mean, pray? We'll be fine. You're just worried about nothing." Ayla's heart dropped. Was Zoey right? She didn't want to seem silly, but deep down, she felt something big was coming. Something dangerous. That evening, Ayla finally gathered her courage and did what Nana had told her. She knelt beside her bed and closed her eyes tightly, her hands clasped together. "Please, God, keep me and Zoey safe on our journey. Protect us from harm, and guide us to where we need to be. I trust in you." As she finished her prayer, Ayla felt a warmth spread through her chest, calming her fears. It felt as though something had shifted in the air. The next day, Ayla and Zoey set off on their journey. The city was bustling with excitement as they hopped onto the train that would take them to the countryside. The train rattled along the tracks, and Ayla couldn't help but notice how the skies seemed unusually gray. As the hours passed, they noticed something strange. The weather turned colder and darker, and soon, snowflakes began to fall heavily. The train's lights flickered, and a strange tension filled the air. Zoey was looking out the window, unaware of the growing unease in Ayla's heart. Suddenly, the train jerked to a stop. The sound of screeching metal echoed through the cabin. A loud voice came over the intercom, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a small issue with the engine. Please stay calm as we resolve the situation." Ayla's stomach churned. Something felt wrong. She looked out the window, where the storm outside had grown fiercer, the snow swirling like a blizzard. The train was trapped in the middle of nowhere. "I have a bad feeling about this," Ayla whispered to Zoey. "We should have prayed more." Zoey laughed nervously. "You're being overdramatic, Ayla. It's just a little snowstorm. We'll be fine." But Ayla couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. And then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a figure standing on the tracks, just beyond the train window. It was a tall, shadowy figure, draped in black. The figure's eyes glowed eerily, like two stars in the night sky. Ayla gasped and turned to Zoey. "Zoey, did you see that?" Zoey looked confused. See what? There's nothing there. Ayla felt a chill run down her spine. The figure was gone, but the unease in her heart remained. Minutes turned to hours, and the storm grew worse. The train was still stuck, and the lights flickered again. This time, they went out completely. The passengers on the train started to panic, murmuring and shouting. Some tried to call for help, but there was no signal. Ayla gripped Zoey's arm tightly. We need to pray again, Zoey. I don't think this is just a storm. Zoey looked around, her eyes wide with fear. She could feel the tension now. Reluctantly, Zoey nodded, and together, they knelt in their seats. Ayla whispered the same prayer she had said the night before, but this time, it felt different. As they finished, a strange calm seemed to wash over them. The storm outside suddenly started to ease, the wind dying down, and the snowflakes slowly stopped falling. A bright light appeared through the windows, brighter than anything Ayla had ever seen. But just as quickly as it appeared, the light vanished. The train's engine sputtered to life, and with a loud roar, it started moving again. The passengers cheered, but Ayla remained silent, still shaken by the experience. What happened, Ayla? Zoey asked, still confused. Ayla didn't answer immediately. She could only think of the shadowy figure and the strange calm that followed their prayer. She knew now, deep down, that prayer had saved them. Without it, they might have been trapped in the storm forever. As the train finally reached the countryside, Ayla knew that her journey wasn't just about the adventure. It was about something much bigger, a reminder that sometimes, the unseen forces around us are the ones who protect us when we need it the most. And she was grateful. Grateful for the prayer that had kept her safe. Grateful for the wisdom of her grandmother. And grateful for the knowledge that, no matter where life took her, she would always have the power to pray. But Ayla also knew that this wasn't the end. Something told her that their adventure was far from over, and that the road ahead would hold more surprises than she could imagine. But whatever came, Ayla would be ready. And she would pray, every time. The countryside was beautiful, but Ayla couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. The air was crisp, the scent of pine trees fresh and clean, but beneath it all, there was a tension that lingered. As the train slowly pulled into the small station, Ayla noticed how quiet the town seemed, like a forgotten place trapped in time. There were no bustling shops or loud voices, just the soft crunch of snow beneath their boots as they stepped off the train. Zoey, who had been excited just hours before, now seemed uneasy. I don't like how empty it feels here, she said, pulling her coat tighter around her. Where is everyone? Ayla felt it too, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she grabbed Zoey's arm, feeling the chill run through her. Maybe they're just inside, getting ready for the holiday. But even as she said it, she wasn't convinced. The town had an eerie silence, almost like it was holding its breath. The two girls made their way to the small inn where they were supposed to stay. The warm light from inside the building welcomed them, and they pushed open the door, hoping to find some warmth and comfort. But when they entered, the room felt strange. The air inside was stale, and the fireplace was barely flickering. A woman behind the counter, tall and thin with dark eyes, looked up at them as they entered. Her gaze was intense, as if she had been watching them for a long time. Welcome, she said, her voice low and soft. I'm Anna. You must be the two girls from the train? Ayla nodded. Yes, that's us. We were hoping to get a room for the night. Anna smiled, but there was something unsettling about it. Of course. We have just the room for you. But be careful tonight, girls. The storm may be over, but there's still danger in these parts. Zoey laughed nervously. Danger? It's just a small town. What could be dangerous here? Anna's smile faded, and she looked out the window, where the last traces of the storm were beginning to fade. "You'll understand soon enough," she said cryptically. "Just remember what you were told. Pray before you sleep." Ayla felt her heart race again. Was this more than a coincidence? Was she supposed to pray again? She hadn't told Anna about her experience on the train, but it seemed as though the woman knew exactly what had happened. The night fell quickly, and the girls retired to their room. The fire in the hearth was weak, so Ayla stoked it, but it didn't help much. The room was cold, and as she sat on the bed, she stared out the window at the darkening sky. The snow outside looked peaceful, but the silence of the town still felt suffocating. "I don't like it here," Zoey whispered, sitting down beside her. "Something's off. I keep thinking about what Anna said. About the storm and the danger." Ayla nodded, her thoughts swirling. "We need to pray again, Zoey. I feel like something is going to happen. Something we don't understand yet." Zoey hesitated, but then, seeing the serious look on Ayla's face, nodded. Together, they knelt beside the bed, repeating the prayer Ayla had said earlier. This time, it felt even more urgent. As they finished, Ayla felt the room grow colder, the air thickening with tension. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Ayla jumped, her heart pounding. Who could it be at this hour? They hadn't seen anyone in the halls all day. "Who is it?" Ayla called out, her voice trembling. The door creaked open slowly, but there was no one there. Just an empty hallway, dimly lit by a single flickering lamp. "Maybe it's the wind," Zoey said, though her voice was uncertain. Ayla stepped into the hallway, glancing both ways, but it was as silent as the rest of the town. No one was around. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blew down the hallway, sending a chill through Ayla's bones. The door to their room slammed shut, and they both jumped. "What is happening?" Zoey whispered, grabbing Ayla's arm. Ayla didn't know. All she knew was that it wasn't just the storm anymore. There was something wrong with this town, something hidden in its quiet streets. And she had the feeling that the shadowy figure from the train wasn't the only thing that had been watching them. The next morning, they went downstairs to breakfast, but the innkeeper, Anna, was nowhere to be found. Instead, a strange old man was sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. His eyes were vacant, as if he had seen something that had stolen his soul. "Excuse me, sir," Ayla asked hesitantly. "Where is Anna?" The man didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was gruff, like he hadn't spoken in years. "Anna left long ago," he muttered. "But you're not the first to come here." "Oh no, not the first." Ayla and Zoey exchanged nervous glances. "What do you mean?" Ayla asked, her heart racing. The man slowly turned to face them, his eyes empty. "Many come to this town to find something they shouldn't. You too, you're just the latest." Before they could ask anything more, the man turned back to the fire, as though they were no longer worth his attention. Ayla felt cold sweat on her palms. This wasn't just some holiday getaway. There was something deeper here, something connected to the strange warning Anna had given them. And as she looked out the window at the snowy landscape, she realized they might not be alone in this town. Something, or someone, was watching them closely. They couldn't leave yet. Not without figuring out what had brought them here and what dangers lay ahead. The only thing Ayla was sure of now was that her prayer was just the beginning. Whatever awaited them, they would need more than just their courage. They would need the strength of their faith to survive what was coming. The next morning, Ayla couldn't shake the feeling that something was closing in on them. The old man's cryptic words echoed in her mind as she and Zoey left the inn. The air outside was still cold, and the streets of the town remained eerily empty. No one seemed to be walking around, and the only sounds were the crunch of their boots in the snow. We have to figure this out, Ayla said, her voice tight with worry. We need answers. Zoe, normally the more optimistic of the two, was quieter than usual. What if we're in danger? What if this whole place is cursed? Ayla looked at her best friend, trying to reassure her with a smile. We'll be okay. But we need to know more about Anna and the town. We can't leave until we understand what's really going on here. As they wandered through the town, they found a small library nestled between two older buildings. Its wooden sign creaked as it swayed in the breeze, the only sign of life they had seen in hours. The door opened with a soft squeak, and the inside was filled with the smell of old books and dust. A woman with silver-gray hair sat behind the counter, reading a book. She looked up as they entered, her sharp eyes examining them for a moment before she spoke. You're not from here, are you? She asked, her voice raspy but kind. No, Ayla said. We are just passing through. We are looking for information about the town, and about Anna. Do you know anything about her? The woman raised an eyebrow. Anna. She's not someone you should trust. None of us should be trusted here. Zoe shivered, but Ayla's curiosity got the better of her. What do you mean? Why? The librarian sighed, her eyes growing distant as if remembering something painful. This town, it's bound by an old curse. Many years ago, a group of travelers arrived, much like you two, and they were never seen again. Anna, she's the keeper of that secret. She's the one who lures people in, makes them stay. But it's not just the people who stay that get lost. It's the town itself. It shifts. It changes. It traps you here, even when you think you're free. Ayla's heart began to pound in her chest. This wasn't some simple misunderstanding. The whole town was caught in something far darker than she had imagined. We didn't come here for this, Zoe whispered. We just wanted a holiday. The librarian nodded slowly. I understand. But you need to leave before it's too late. Trust me, no one who's come here has ever left the same. Ayla clenched her fist. We need to find Anna. We need to get to the bottom of this. The librarian's face softened. You're brave. But be careful. The town will fight you. It doesn't want to let you go. With that warning, Ayla and Zoe left the library, their minds racing. They walked back toward the inn, but the streets were even quieter than before. As they approached the inn, they saw Anna standing by the door, waiting for them. Did you enjoy your visit? She asked, her voice sweet but with an edge to it. Ayla's stomach twisted. What's happening here? Why are you doing this? Why is this town so strange? Anna's smile was cold. You're asking the wrong questions. The real question is, do you want to leave? Zoe stepped back, her face pale. What do you mean? You've been keeping us here. Trapping us. Anna nodded slowly. This town has its own rules. You don't just pass through it. You belong to it now. And you will stay. Ayla's heart pounded as the realization sank in. They weren't just in danger, they were part of the curse now. They had to fight to escape, or they would become lost like the travelers before them. Not if we stop you, Ayla said, her voice steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. Anna's eyes narrowed, and she raised a hand as if to stop them from going any further. You can try. But you won't succeed. No one has ever escaped. Ayla reached out and grabbed Zoe's hand. We can't give up. We have to believe that we can get out of here. They turned and ran, not knowing where they were going, but needing to escape. The town seemed to shift around them, the buildings twisting as they ran, the streets changing direction as if it were alive, trying to keep them trapped. Suddenly, Ayla stopped. She could hear a faint sound, a whispering voice coming from behind one of the buildings. Without thinking, she pulled Zoe toward it. The voice was growing louder, clearer. "Help me," the voice begged. Ayla's heart skipped a beat. It was Anna's voice, but distorted, as if she were being pulled into something darker. The two girls followed the sound, rounding a corner and finding themselves in front of an ancient, crumbling well. The air around it was thick, the energy dark and oppressive. Ayla stepped forward, her breath shallow. "This is it. This is the heart of the curse." Zoe looked at her in disbelief. "Are we supposed to go in?" Before Ayla could answer, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The well creaked as something deep within it began to stir. It was like the town itself was alive, fighting back. Ayla took a deep breath and turned to Zoe. "We have to end this. Now." Together, they knelt beside the well and prayed. The words came from their hearts, urgent and full of hope. As they finished, the ground shook one last time, and then everything went silent. For a moment, Ayla and Zoe didn't know if it had worked. But then, slowly, the town began to change. The oppressive feeling lifted, the buildings stopped shifting, and the cold air seemed to warm. The curse was broken. The two girls found themselves back at the train station, the snow now gentle and calm. The town, no longer trapped, stood still, as if it had always been waiting for them to release it. The train to the city was waiting for them, ready to take them back to safety. Ayla turned to Zoe, both of them exhausted but relieved. "We did it. We are free." Zoe smiled, her eyes bright with tears. "We really are." As the train doors closed behind them, Ayla looked out the window one last time. The town, now peaceful, faded from view, but she knew she would never forget what they had experienced. And as the train chugged forward, taking them away from the strange, haunted town, Ayla whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. Because sometimes, the greatest danger comes not from what we can see, but from what we can't.